Haney Biz presents Entrepreneurs Unlimited. Here's your host, Mark Haney.
We are here with John Krueger, Executive VP of the Greater Sacramento Area Economic Council. And we're also have the privilege of having Dave Sanders, the CEO of World Bridge Partners and a well-known angel investor. How you guys doing today?
Fantastic. Thanks for having us on.
All right. How about you, Dave?
Doing great.
All right. So Dave and I, Dave's been on the show. You guys may have remembered Dave from sharing his information about angel investing and how angel investing works. And we're going to talk today about Sacramento region and how the Sacramento region is really poised for some great things in the future. And so we're here with John, who is helping drive some of that. Now, John, welcome to the show. And let me just ask you one question just to kind of, you came in today and you spilled some coffee on yourself. And now, are you recovered from that?
Yeah, I think I'm okay now. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, good. So everything's going to be okay. I'm a little unprepared. We've got Dave here to help me. But, John, why don't you tell us about your organization and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me here today to talk a little bit about our organization, the region. It is a phenomenal region. We are so lucky to be here, I think, as people, population. The organization is about a year old now. We merged with a group that's been here supporting economic development for about 40 years. So we're very lucky to have done that. Our organization is a private and public partnership. We have funding that comes from 17 communities, 4 counties, 13 cities, as well as a number of private sector CEOs that really came together a couple of years ago and decided they really wanted to create some momentum around job creation, economic diversification here in the market. And so far it's been really good. The messaging has been, Sacramento is vibrant. Sacramento has entrepreneurs. We have the spirit. We have a good work ethic. We have a great population, and we've been able to communicate that to a little over a couple hundred meetings in the Bay Area, and it's sticking well.
So now, when you communicate that to the Bay Area, is the idea to try to recruit businesses or influence people in the Bay Area?
Well, I think part of it is a perception piece. It's a brand. You talked about it earlier. It's branding the region is a large part of what we are doing to try to get the message out that whatever you perceive Sacramento to be, if you're in Chicago right now, if you're in Los Angeles or the Bay Area right now, I can almost guarantee you don't have it correct.
Yeah.
I haven't grown up in Los Angeles myself. I know I didn't have it correct.
What was your image of Sacramento and our region?
I really didn't have one. I knew it was the state capital. I'd done 4th grade in California, so I knew the
gold
capital.
rush.
And, that's right. I knew where it started, and so I knew the history. But I think we just didn't really think about it. It just wasn't an option. And still today, telling friends of mine from growing up that I was moving to Sacramento, getting back to California, and the answer was mixed. Oh, good, California, maybe I'll see a little bit more, and Sacramento. And so we're changing that because Sacramento is awesome. I've been here a little under a year now. My family loves it. My kids love it. We're spending $4 billion in revitalizing our downtown. It's been absolutely fantastic. We'll spend another $6 billion over the next 10 years. That's reinvestment in an urban core that really drives the entire market because it drives where families are going to end up going. Millennials, this whole thing about millennials not ever buying a home, it's 18 to 28-year-olds don't buy homes. I didn't buy one when I was 18. I don't know very many 18-year-olds that buy homes or 22-year-olds. They don't know what they're going to do.
Now, Dave, you and John know each other. Talk to us about your relationship and how you guys know each other.
Well, just having had a chance to collaborate with his organization, and obviously I was somewhat involved with bringing Barry Broom here a year ago, and John had an opportunity to work with Barry in the past. And so followed him over to help, re-energize the economic development efforts here locally.
And you mentioned Barry Broom. Can you give us an idea of who he is?
He's
known, but just for our audience to make sure they know.
Eventually we're going to get him in on this show because nobody can tell the Barry story quite like Barry does. But when this new organization was being formed and the CEOs were getting together, they really wanted to do a nationwide search and reach out to some of the better operating entities across the country. So we literally went out and started with a target list of about 400 to 500 people, and then ultimately were able to recruit Barry from Phoenix.
Okay.
Barry had been in Phoenix for about 10 years. He moved, I think, something upwards of 250 companies to the region. So he had a successful track record. He was well thought of. He had a prior relationship with the mayor. So putting all these pieces together and getting him to come here has been a major boom.
So now Barry, John, you and Barry have teamed up to launch this new enterprise, this new organization.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so we're very excited to have been doing it now. Our inaugural fiscal year started in July, and we've been very pleased with the results, both in attracting companies, helping local companies expand, which is also part of our mission. And it's been great. It's been a great economy.
Now, how do you measure those results?
So we have some very clear metrics, and that's part of the difference between our organization and a lot of regional groups across the country. We're very heavily, I'll use the word metriced. So we create measurements of jobs, measurements of payroll. We also look at square footage, absorption. We look at a couple different measures in terms of saying, we're going to, success will be X number of jobs. It will be moving the needle around payroll. And so we have measures of all of those that we track on a monthly basis. We kind of look at where we are.
When we come back, we're going to talk more with John and Dave about the future of Sacramento, how these metrics are going to shape the future of our region, and a little bit more about the branding component and the catchphrases and the branding aspects of building a region like we're building here in Sacramento. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at HaneyBiz.com. We are back with John Krueger and Dave Sanders, who are taking leadership roles in building out the new Sacramento and making it the vibrant economy for entrepreneurs. And John, we're talking about metrics, right, and how you measure your success. And we've also been talking about branding and the image. Let's start with branding a little bit. What is do you guys have a catchphrase or a slogan that you guys use?
I think we do. We have several that we use. The new California dream, Sacramento, the next great thing out of California. So I think there's a few that we use. And part of it is, what is the audience? Where's the audience from? And that'll change our tagline. We spend a lot of time in the Bay Area talking. And I want to make it clear that we're not in the Bay Area trying to convince all of the companies in the Bay Area to leave the Bay Area and come out here. But before they consider taking jobs out of the state of California, I want them to look at the options in California that we have to offer. And I think Sacramento can save California jobs, both Bay Area expense and California jobs.
Right. Isn't the cost of living so much lower here than it is in the Bay Area?
Yeah, we took one company who was looking to move a division, and over about a 20-year time frame, we've saved them $220 million over 20 years, just in base wage and real estate costs.
Wow. Now, Dave, you're an angel investor, and you're involved with bringing guys to Sacramento. And I'm curious from you as to what industries are most likely to gain benefit from being here in Sacramento.
Well, I think any growing early stage company can benefit from living here. What I look at is, we've invested in several companies that are currently located in the Bay, but as they look to expand and they're getting expansion capital, now they're going to hire an additional 5 to 10 people. They need more space. That's when they start running into roadblocks in the Bay Area, and they look at the true cost of doing business. We represent a fantastic alternative. And I think, John, would be great if you can kind of expand upon some of the data and the analytics that you guys are able to pull together, because I think it's pretty unique for an organization your size.
Yeah, so we spend a lot of our time. I mean, it's about a third of our staff is all in research on the data and analytics side. So we spend a lot of time comparing markets nationally, looking at competitiveness issues, demographic issues, educational attainment. So, we look at a lot of those things and compare ourselves to not only the Bay Area, but the entire California. We look at graduation rates. And Sacramento has a long way to go before they are everything to all companies. But, I think from a lot of things, helping Sac State and UC Davis, embed their student and get their graduation rates up and embed them into our market are going to be a top-tier goal for us.
How important is the graduation rate in high school and in college to the growing the region?
Oh, it's really high. When you talk about, entrepreneurism, when they move from 4 or 5 people that are, in a startup company, and they're going to add another 10, 15, 20 and grow. They want to make sure they have the right skill sets that are here. And no matter where they started in their educational attainment, they've come up with a great idea. They've overcome what they need to. They've adapted. They've created a company, but growing and sustaining that growth is going to require the skill sets. And you can't always pull that from outside of the market. You need to have inside a pipeline, a workforce. And that's where the importance of Sac State, UC Davis, the other universities in our area, those are very important for us to support and get that workforce pipeline, educated pipeline into our market.
You mentioned at the beginning of the first segment about 4 counties being responsible for the funding. How do you get your funding?
So it's about 80% privately funded. So we have a group of about 34 or 5 CEOs now that are in varying degrees of annual support for the organization, most of which who are now on our board, and then the 17 communities are at a per capita basis. So the skin in the game is equal across the board, no matter the size of the company.
Okay, understood. So yeah, we have some. I'm out in the Rockland area, and we've got William Jessup University out in Rockland. We've got Sierra College, and they are really helpful in the South Placer region. How do you guys view the South Placer region in importance as relates to the overall Greater Sacramento area?
Yeah, South Placer. The biggest thing I think for us as a region is the ability to continue to grow. You look at what's happened in the Bay Area. The pricing in the Bay Area isn't necessarily just because it's a great market. It's because it's a great market that's constrained geographically, constrained by measures that they have put into place to reduce growth. If you reduce the growth, you increase the costs. And having an area like South Placer and along 50 Corridor, Folsom, there are a lot of places, Elk Grove, there are a lot of places in our region that long-term growth is going to be possible. When that long-term growth is possible, it keeps our real estate costs down. So we'll continue to be able to grow and be reasonably priced. It's a sustainable model for us where it has not been in a lot of other places in California.
How important is professional sports to the growth of Sacramento?
Professional sports, it gets your eyes. It's part of your brand. It's arts and culture. Sports are a very important part of what, especially now when you talk about entrepreneurism, when we're talking about, and we have a goal of bringing 200 new young companies here to the market over the next 10 years. So that market, they want to come to a market where they have something to do other than their work. Yes. They want to be able to leave, and our downtown arena, we get something around the soccer. We have the Kings Arena open here. They'll be able to go to just about anything at any point in their life, and you know what? 90% of them go right back to work afterwards, and they keep crunching away. That's just part of this entrepreneurial world.
Hey, we only have a minute left, Dave. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up our discussion about entrepreneurship and the Sacramento region?
Yeah, I think I just want to expand a little bit on the branding issue. I think one of the big things that Greater Sacramento has done a good job of is pulling all the counties, cities, and municipalities together to really start to market the region as a whole. So it's less about Elk Grove competing with Roseville, but really selling companies on coming here in the first place and taking a look at this area and understanding all the aspects of what we have to offer. Then let them look and decide where they want to be. NRC Manufacturing is a good example of that. Here's a company started in Fremont, 16,000 square foot of space, doing prototyping for companies, and they see huge opportunity to expand. Originally, they were going to expand overseas, and they had an opportunity to meet the mayor of Elk Grove and work closely and collaboratively with Greater Sacramento, and made a decision that Elk Grove was a better place to expand. And ultimately, over the next 5 to 7 years, they could have 25 employees working here.
Very, very helpful, very interesting information, gentlemen. And this reminds me of our slogan, which is the power of with. Together, we can do so much more than any one of us can do alone. I'm Mark Haney. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at haneybiz.com. And welcome back. I had a good time with these with all the guests today. Very fun and energetic group, and it really makes you think about that that's something that you need to do as a business. You got to have fun. And so, at our companies, we're throwing a party where people love to come. And these catchphrases, they're important in shaping the culture. They're important with the connection that you have with your team, with anybody you're trying to influence. And so as we think about influence, it's that connection that makes such a difference. And, last week we were talking about the power of with, and we were talking about hometown patriotism, which is near and dear to the hearts of the Allegiant Giving Partners, my companies. And it made me kind of think about a few things that I didn't get a chance to get out last week. And the Allegiant Giving Partners, we're working on some scholarship stuff right here in our area. And we're going into schools and we're picking out leaders and we're giving them scholarships, because the leaders, like these guys from Pocket Points, these leaders that are these guys when they were in high school, these are the leaders of our community, of our country. And if we can identify those young leaders early, recognize them early, reward them with scholarships or funding opportunities like what Dave Sanders has done, man, that makes it such a much stronger community. I mean, those are the kind of guys you want living next door to you. Those are the kind of guys that you want to be around. They're good for our community. They're driving innovation. They're going to be driving jobs. They're not just good for the economy. They're good for the community. And I think as Allegiant Giving Partners, we're going in and we're recognizing those leaders in the high schools. We're working with Roseville High School. We're working with Rockland High School. We're working with Lincoln High School. And the Allegiant Giving Partners, these small businesses and larger businesses as well, we're going in and we're identifying those guys. So I want to thank Jerry Wallace in particular for helping launch that Allegiant Giving scholarship program where we're going in and finding tomorrow's leaders. A lot of times scholarships are based upon academic stuff, or they're based upon, being a great football player. Well, our scholarships are about leadership. We're about like Mitch and Rob. It doesn't matter if you're a straight A guy or the captain of the football team. If you're a leader, that comes out like it did today with these guys. And, the other thing about that I didn't mention last week in talking about hometown patriotism, I talked about, people go off to war. That's patriotism. And as you really understand what that is, it gives you a better sense as to what true patriotism is all about. But hometown patriotism, there's guys that are not going off to war, that are too old or are just not meant to be going into the service, but they can still do something. We can all do something. And, my mom fell over the weekend. And my mom, she's been sick for a long time, but she fell, and my sister, I was coming back from Vegas, and I wasn't there, and I just got to thank my sister for taking her to the emergency, or they called the ambulance and they took her to the emergency room, and they took her over to Kaiser. And they have a tagline that's Thrive over there at Kaiser. And you drive down the billboard, and it's kind of motivational to see that Kaiser Thrive tagline. But they were living it. When I got over there, coming back from Vegas, there was a nurse, Gail Sims. Her shift ended at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. She's in the middle of the night taking care of my mom, making sure that my mom can move around and be a little bit more comfortable. And, these people that work in the emergency rooms at 3 in the morning, you know what? You looked at the doctors, the nurses, the people that are staying up all night to help people that are having a tough time. In my book, that's hometown patriotism, right? Patriotism it shows up in different ways. And, I just want to thank, Kay Sims was her name, or Gail Sims, I'm sorry, was her name, and never met her before, but the nicest lady in the world. You know what? She didn't have to do that, but some people choose to give of themselves, and I think that's what the power of with is all about. That's what this show, we're trying, we know a little bit about coaching football, we know a little bit about building businesses, but you know what? Together, we can build a community that's different, that's special, that puts our region on the map as something different. And, I just got to say, you know what? As we look at this, catchphrase day and how we decided to talk about that today. At the end of the show, every week, we talk about this. We mention this one catchphrase, and it's every time, and I think it's who we are to our core. And it came from my son, Marcus. And as he was getting ready to, the night before they deployed to Afghanistan, we were buying dinner. And I was buying dinner for all these Marines as they were getting ready to ship out for war. And I gave this motivational, I felt it was pretty motivational speech. A lot of people crying. And at the very end, my son Marcus gets up and says to his brothers and to their families, he says, "You know how we do it, guys." And he held up his mug. He held it up high in the air. He says, "You know how we do this, you guys." And he said, "Never above you, never below you, always by your side." And we live by that.